that's all the reviews we have for this month. So, because this show is kind of short, we are now very quickly going to...
News Spotlight, which is also shining on a zombie.
Damn it.
You're desperate, can you tell?
I'm hardly any person to blame another for half-assing.
But yeah, once again, it's time for us to take a look at this month's media-related news stories that have caught our eye and give our own opinions on the matter. 3 quick things of what I mentioned. First off, one that's caused some controversy is that, okay, as we all know, Mass Effect 3 is now one of the launch titles of the Wii U. Because there's this slight problem that you can't continue the story of Shepard from the PC games, and since no Nintendo console has ever had of the version of Mass Effect, you basically have to go through a miniature comic book in order to pick the decisions and decide how your game's going to be from the start, which, to consider it's 2 games, it's kind of odd to summarize all of them like that, but whatever.
Yeah.
The main controversy that has got some people kind of, well, pissed off is that BioWare are releasing this special Mass Effect Trilogy Edition, which is basically all 3 games in one pack, and they're doing it on Xbox 360, PC, and PlayStation, but not the Wii U.
Okay, BioWare, that just makes no sense. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's just... I can see where some people are going from. I mean, I've already played through the original Mass Effect, so I'm not too bothered, but it is kind of a dick move.
Yeah, because even for you, you can practically guarantee your PC's not going to be able to play Mass Effects 2 and 3. This is your only way out to play 2 and 3, and they're not allowing you 1 or 2.
Yeah, I don't get it either. The second bit of Wii U related news is that Tekken Tag Tournament 2 is also one of the titles that, if it's not one of the launch titles, it's one of the titles in the launch window, and they decided to give a unique bonus for the Wii U version in that, okay, there's no way to get around this. You can dress up the characters as Mario, Luigi, Peach, Zero Suit, Samus, and I believe, oh, and Link, that was it.
So basically, you can take your Tekken and turn it into Smash Bros. Brawl.
Pretty much, you could have, like, one of the serious, broody, superpowered anti-heroes of Tekken and make them look absolutely bloody ridiculous, yeah.
Admittedly, I wouldn't mind that, making the anti-hero look ridiculous, especially if it was in a Naruto game.
Yeah, in fairness, Tekken does have many weird moments, so this actually kind of fits it, but, not sure if I'm definitely going to buy it because of this. I've been flip-flopping on whether I wanted to get a new Tekken for the Wii U anyway. But at the same time, I do have to admit, it's pretty hilarious to watch.
All I can imagine in my head is, Jin I always get my Jins mixed up. Tekken has a Jin. What is his last name?
Mishima, that's it.
Yeah, him. I'm just having fun imagining him in Princess Peach's dress.
Yeah, that's... Oh, jeez. It's also kind of funny you see it in the Mario Bros. Outfits, because they don't just have the Dungarees overalls, they also have a Mario-style nose put on their faces.
Oh god, do they have the mustache?
I don't think so, no. That would have been the end show, I think.
Oh god. Oh god, if they had, the only thing that would have made it better is Charles Martinet.
What, just how Martin they saying all the Tekken lines?
Yes, in Mario voice.
You had better not get in my way! Let's go!
I would buy Tekken for that, and I hate fighting games.
Oh god. I will unlock the full power of the Devil Gene! Yahoo!
And then I just say, you do a wonderful Mario.
Thank you. I am very proud of my horrific Italian stereotype. And 2 very quick anime news. First of all, in 2013, Sentai Filmworks is going to release a series of brand new sci-fi anime, which is mildly interesting, and the only reason I bring it up is because that means Predator Space Pirates is finally getting a dub. Yay!
Oh my god, they're actually bringing that to the United States. Well, to the West. I would not think that name would get past our censors.
Well, to be fair, the word bodacious does mean adventurous, as we pointed out. It's only you that seems to link it to the... Well, to be fair, several people have linked it to the breast, but...
Yeah, one would think it's a whole lot dirtier than it is, but apparently they're using the adventurous term, so whatevs.
Yeah. I think also Sword Arts Online is getting in a dub. I'm not 100% sure. I forget, is Aniplex of America a dubbing company, or...
I know they work with Funimation.
So yeah, they may be getting that one. And there are some other titles, but honestly, they're really not that interesting at all. So, one last anime-related news story. There was a poll conducted by Big Loaf, whatever the heck that is. Basically, there were two sets of polls they did, which are kind of interesting and also kind of funny. Basically, they got female fans to name which female character in anime they found annoying, and then the male fans to say which male character they found annoying.
Oh my.
Yes, and the results are actually pretty surprising, although possibly not the number one most annoying character. Out of 17,764 females, a good number of them decided that Bleach's Orihime was the most irritating character in anime.
Oh god. The hilarious part was, we were just over this. Then again, after the rant I went on a while back, about a year, I gotta wonder how many of those aren't just rabid fangirls of some sort, since there seem to be a lot of those among Bleach fans.
Yeah, although it doesn't seem to be in pairings. In fact, the reason the list is actually quite interesting is because it goes from... There are some characters like Orihime who, yeah, it could be based on shipping, but then again there are also characters like Haruhi Suzumiya, which I guess, yeah, you probably would get irritated by some of the more hyperactive, cheerful characters. Rather surprisingly is that Sword Arts Online, which has actually been very well received critically, its leading lady, Asuna, is fourth.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think actually kind of see that because now Sword Arts Online is a really, really good show. I'm still enjoying it, but it does have one or two flaws, and yeah, eventually Asuna starts kind of clinging to Kirito a little bit, but there's kind of very few flaws, or at least ones where the characters don't say, "Oh, I had this flaw, but now it's been fixed." Sakura Haruno can also cheer us the fact that she's only at number 27 on this list.
Which is really funny because I would rank her high up there after that reversal in character development.
Yeah.
I would think that not doing anything for years on end would have kind of deadened her position.
I would go and list a few more, but frankly, half of them are in series I either haven't watched or just have no idea what the heck they are, to be honest. Well, surprisingly, Sailor Moon is at number 32.
Okay.
Which I guess, yeah, from what I heard, the main character of that series is kind of annoying. And number 49 is Launch from Dragon Ball, which, yeah, makes sense, seeing as she's the only character that didn't transfer over to Dragon Ball Z. Also, number 60, and another controversial one of the leading ladies from Evangelion, Asuka Langley Shikinami.
I can see why. She's one of those characters that you have to be a very set sort of person to like, because she's kind of psychotic.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with a lot of these characters. They're either psychotic, clingy, or just like really loud and shrill. Like,
or useless.
Possibly, because at number 30 is Squid Girl, and I've only seen the opening for that. Yeah, but it looks like one of those things where the girl runs around hyperactively, and that's supposed to be cute. So.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Allow me to express how sad it is that Orihime got number 1 because Kubo cannot characters.
Yeah. Moving swiftly out of that, on the male list, again, more controversy, Sword Arts Online, its main character Kirito is at number 3.
Oh my.
Again, kind of understandable since he keeps flip-flopping out of anti-hero angster and perfect harem protagonist who everyone falls in love with.
Oh god, outright Gary Stu.
Pretty much, yeah. It also kind of doesn't help that he is so high level that the only way one of the guys actually managed to beat him is by literally breaking the game.
Oh god, bad Ichigo flashbacks now.
Unsurprisingly, Shinji is from Evangelion is on the list, although surprisingly he's only at number 43.
Interesting.
Another character from Evangelion named Gendo Ikari. Oh, I think Shinji's dad. Oh, that's funny. Shinji is at number 43 and Gendo is at number 44.
Well, understandably in that case, because from what I remember, Gendo is an absolute
It's also surprisingly that fan favourite antagonist also on here. Light from Death Note is on there.
Well, he is kind of a base breaker. I mean, there's some who love him, and then there is Y Ruler of Time, who spits on his grave. Tell me, is Aizen on there anywhere?
I can't see him on there, no, sadly.
Fuck!
Neither is Ichigo.
Oh, you've got to be shitting me.
I'm afraid not. Bizarrely, from Naruto, Kiba is added on the list.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of male characters that hate Naruto, it's just Kiba's the last one that would cross my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked him. In fact, I can name someone much more important to the plot that I find much more annoying. Gee, wonder who.
Unfortunately, I think he's too popular to do that.
And God, do I not get why.
Yeah. Also, what is to me is that number 37 is from a series called Okoro Connect, and the main protagonist is of that, Tai Chi, which, honestly, I don't kind of see why. I mean, maybe people dislike him because he is a kind of a squeaky clean character, but from what I've seen in a couple of episodes, he's just like one of these nice guys. I mean, I can understand why people don't quite like him, but I don't understand how he could be annoying. I will stop beating around the bush because the guy at number 1 I can definitely agree with, and that's School Days Makoto Ito.
Oh god, I know that series because I see it all the time on site.
Yeah, if you haven't heard of this series, well, let me put it this way. It starts off as a harem, but it's filled with incredibly awful people. Some fatally psychotic people. And it has one of the most gruesome and just absolutely tasteless endings I have ever seen.
I'm not even gonna ask.
Well, on the one hand, to get back to the topic in hand, I will say that this guy deserves it. Because he essentially is, how do I explain it? An absolutely heartless douchebag who basically likes making out with a girl before moving on to the next one. He doesn't give two shits who he hurts in the process, and even when he's accidentally impregnates a girl, he basically says, that's your problem, get an abortion, and goes with another girl.
Charming. Very charming.
Frankly, the only thing I can sympathize with is that, like I said, the last episode is absolutely horrific in that he gets stabbed to death in a very violent and graphic fashion. Even more than most anime.
Oh my, even more than Bleach.
Yeah, even more so than Bleach.
Well, I can't say he didn't have it coming.
Yeah, oh god. I'm just getting cold shivers thinking about that ending, and I really wish I hadn't seen it, so let's just move on. So yeah, interesting list. If you go into Crunchyroll, the news section, you can find it, and yeah, it does make for some interesting reading. But maybe I'll post a link in the description if I remember. And also, on a really amusing note, for anyone who dislikes Gundam Seed, rejoice! Over half of its cast are on here somewhere.
Wow.
There's like, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4 characters in total over the different polls. No, wait, 5. Yeah, like I said, this is a fun list to read, so check it out when you have the time. In the meantime, it's time to get to today's discussion.
Discussion that has big, googly eyes. Ooh.
It's time for us to stand on the free-for-all soapbox that is the internet and give our thoughts on a subject within fiction. So yeah, we're talking about drama and melodrama, as well as separating the tears from the angst. What does it take to move our heartstrings, and why is it so hilarious when these scenes go wrong?
Or just to put that another way, separating the angst from the wangst.
Yeah,
Put it
pretty
in
much.
TV tropes terms.
I guess the first order of business would be what makes a good emotional scene, but thinking about it, it's kind of hard to put into words, I guess.
Yeah, it kind of is, I guess. A good emotional scene is one that makes you feel emotional, makes you feel emotion.
I think a lot of emotional scenes, well, there are two things that kind of make a good scene. The first is the build-up to it, I think a lot of series try to start off with, hello, your parents have just randomly died, and you're thinking, okay, I don't know you, I'm sure that's sad for you, I'm sorry, but...
Well, then again, that's basically the case with the start of any show or any series or any game. Any tragedy that happens in the beginning, you're not going to care about.
Yeah, not really. In order to feel sympathetic for the character, you have to get involved with them and actually don't give a damn about them, in honesty. And the second comes from execution, I think.
Yeah, execution, how it's played out, the character reaction especially, etc.
Yeah, sometimes it can just be the way it goes about it, because there are two problems you can have with tragedy. I think the first is oversaturation. Now, I know I keep bringing up negative points with Sword Art Online, but it is a really enjoyable series. It does have some good character writing, but there is one thing that has become very prevalent in the last few episodes. I am trying to think of an episode from episode 5 onwards that did not have someone crying at some stage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just every single time there's like a little bit of drama or a little bit of tension, they always feel the need to have someone cry. It's like, Kirito, you are going to have to challenge this guy one-on-one, and it's possible you may not return. You can't fight him!
My god.
I'm really struggling to try and remember an important emotional moment that didn't involve someone crying. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that they shouldn't feel sad or desperate or tearful in those situations, but it kind of gets oversaturated. Once you've seen someone crying once, it's not going to have the same impact if you do it again and again and again. No matter what the context is or how much piano music you put in the background, you know?
I get the drift.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of a problem. Like, when you go with a series that's darker and more intense and tragedy can strike at any moment, the emotional scenes tend to work less for the simple reason that they happen all too frequently. I mean, that's kind of the reason why I can't really get into soap operas very much, because, you know, it's only a matter of time before anything that's faintly happy is going to end in tragedy, because that's what soap operas do. That's how they get the fans in, you know?
Tragedy. They're built on it. Usually laying it on very thick, too.
Yeah, that's the main thing. I think that's kind of the reason why I remember Yahtzee mentioned in a review that he kind of dislikes it when something keeps switching between angsty drama and silly comedy, but I actually kind of prefer those kind of stories, and the reason why, if you include comedy, if you show the characters being able to just relax and be themselves, it gives the tragedy a little more impact, because they can relax, they can have fun, they don't want to be miserable. I mean, I guess technically no one wants to be miserable, but you get what I mean. They aren't like this normally, so when the tragedy hits them hard, it hits you hard because you realise, holy crap, things have gotten really serious, you know?
Yeah, and I see that a lot in my writing, particularly a story I believe we've mentioned, a monstrosity, huge-ass thing we wrote a long time ago that is being rewritten.
Yeah.
I see that in that, because I know whenever my less serious characters, or my writing partner's less serious characters, whenever they change to completely dead serious and melancholic, I know shit is going down.
Exactly. I think that's the reason why I like the Tales series, because, yeah, there's the big emotional scenes, but the characters just relax and act like normal people every once in a while. They're not constantly thinking, oh god, we can't laugh for an instant, otherwise we'll all die.
Yeah, basically that.
I think there's a reason why I'm not very sympathetic towards Sasuke, because I don't really call Sasuke an emo, because, to be honest, he has genuine reasons for being sad. I mean, his entire family did get all brutally murdered by his brother in a really complicated conspiracy,
Yeah, he has a very valid excuse for being angsty, because he watched all that, too.
Yeah, so that's a valid reason for him to be angry. The problem is, well, two things. First off, he's constantly thinking about it. I mean, there's nothing that gives the idea that he wouldn't angst. Like, he was really angsting a lot, even as a kid, before all this happened. He seemed to be self-absorbed and worried about his own problems the entire time. And it also doesn't help that all of his actions afterwards have made pretty much no sense and have all been so self-absorbed. And in fact, there was like one point I remember where he basically goes, if anyone says I'm overreacting, I will kill everyone they've ever known and loved so they can understand how I feel. Which just makes me think, yeah, you're not someone I can sympathize with. But Kishimoto seems to make it perfectly clear that we are supposed to sympathize with him on some level. That supposedly there is good in him and we're supposed to care about him. And of course, frankly, we don't at all.
Yeah, I'm not completely sure what's at work here. I mean, obviously, part of it is within the character himself, since he is kind of established from the get-go as a bit self-absorbed and brooding. But part of it just might be the fact that in his entire experience writing, Kishimoto's never been able to write an anti-hero, so...
Yeah, that's another thing. I mean... So yeah, in terms of characters and build-up, it's nice to have it not quite so saturated, like have the character, someone we can sympathize with, but sometimes it does all come down to execution of the drama, because, like we said before, there are scenes that sometimes just don't work, even though the context is there. And for that, I can finally get into something I've been raging about for, well, I was raging for a while, I calmed down now, so that's a relief. I'm just kind of disgusted by it. Doctor Who, ladies and gentlemen.
Ah, yes, here we go.
Right. The last episode of this recent series of Doctor Who was called The Angels Take Manhattan. It was a dumb episode that, to go on a sidebar and show why the angels don't work anymore, it was like one cool idea that's been stretched to oblivion by now. But the real thing that irritated me is that this is the last episode of two of my favourite characters. Amy and Roy Williams, a married couple who've been with the show for over a year now, and I kind of liked it because it was one of the few pairings that did involve the Doctor in some way and was actually shown to be pretty strong. But this is one episode where I seem to be in the minority of this, because when I look at Doctor Who website and science fiction websites, they all rate this episode really highly, like 4 stars, 5 stars, 4 etc. And I absolutely hated this episode, and the reason why was because...
And because I started rambling for a long time and my voice started to sound really echoey and naff, the entire episode is based around this contrivance of there being a pocket dimension where all the events within it are narrated in a book that the Doctor just happens to pick up. This is just hand-waved as, oh, I found my jacket, I don't know where the things in my jacket come from anymore. Yeah, all you've done is point out the plot hole, there's no point trying to wave it up. And once they're inside this pocket dimension, Amy and Rory see an elderly version of Rory die, and unfortunately, due to the nature of time travel, this is now a fixed point, and therefore, unless they create a paradox, Rory will die. So, whilst they're trying to get out of the pocket dimension, Amy and Rory end up on top of a building, and they decide that, well, if I die early, that will create a paradox, and that might save Rory. So why don't the two of us leap off this building? And then the two of them leap off the building, and then there's big horror music, and the Doctor screams, no! But then just before they hit the ground, the time paradox works, and the two of them return to present day. Everyone goes, yay, we've managed to escape. And then randomly out of nowhere, one of the angels that sent them to the pocket dimension in the first place just appears from nowhere and sends Rory back into the pocket dimension. And they've just been told there's no way to get him back. Yeah, Roy just vanishes. That's his final scene. He just goes, oh, what's that? And he vanishes. Poof. That's the last we'll ever see of him. That's their big send-off. And then Amy thinks, well, I'll be with Roy if I go into the pocket dimension, so, yep, we might as well let the angel send me there. Goodbye. Then she gets sent back. Her only send-off is that apparently in the last book, there's a special message left there by Amy, who typed it out on the machine and tells the Doctor to never travel alone. My main problem with it? It's complete bollocks. The episode was trying way too hard. I mean, one big emotional moment I could understand, but I felt really angry at this episode because it was trying way too hard to manipulate me, to get a reaction out of me. And again, it's oversaturation, because when you have one emotional scene after another, they don't have impact anymore. And again, there was no build-up. Roy and Amy just go poof, and we never see them again. That's their send-off. How am I supposed to feel emotional about that? And that's the reason why it made me so angry. Because instead of giving them a proper send-off, instead of just having them decide to part ways with the Doctor and live happily ever after as a couple, or give up their lives in some kind of heroic sacrifice, they're just completely removed for the sake of shock value, for the sake of having some cheap pathos with the Doctor. It's a terrible way to run an emotional scene, and it was a terrible way to end their character arcs.
Yeah, that kind of annoyed me for a while. So, Sven, any example of bad tragedies you can think of?
Yes, actually, because we've just talked about them in this very episode. The deaths for fake cheap drama, and we don't care. You know,
Oh, yeah.
Bleach. But in this case, it's even worse because it's Kubo trying for drama, and not even managing melodrama, but managing something we can't take seriously at all.
Yeah, that is kind of true. I think it's again a bit about build-up, because a lot of the time Kubo just thinks, okay, this character's gonna die, I might as well give him his backstory now, because that would make him more sympathetic and feel the meaning and depth. No, it just makes you look desperate and trying to justify a guy we hated up until this point.
Yeah, and it's not even just that. What really gets me is what's been going on recently, which we just discussed. Everyone dying for the sake of cheap drama, and it fails, and we don't even care.
Again, that would come back to oversaturation, I think, simply because, well, we've had so many freaking deaths recently, it's just been...
Yeah. Again, it's one of those cases of there have been so many last words we can't even count, but in this case, it's not because it's the time loop, it's because they keep happening.
Yeah, I mean, the only death I really cared about was Byakuya, and that was because I was surprised Kubo actually had the nerve to do it, you know?
But even then, it came completely out of nowhere. It was over in like 2 chapters, which I do not care what sort of writer you are, that is not in any way a fitting length of time to send off one of the most important characters in the series. There was really no tragedy behind it because he just kind of stopped existing.
Yeah, I think his last words were farewell, and then he got slashed to death, basically.
Mm-hmm. And then slowly but surely we started caring about the deaths less and less.
Yeah. Well, that's an example of all the bad tragedies. This is going to be hard. Can we name any of the good emotional / death scenes we've had seen recently? Wow, this is an awkward silence.
Well, I could just be cheap and say the ones that we didn't complain about here. Because if they didn't pop up here, they couldn't have been too horrible.
Yeah. Hello, it's me again. Yeah, for some reason, nearly all my stuff had technical glitches and I rambled on for too long. So, yeah, I'll just sum up my points quickly here. 2 examples I wanted to give. First off, to kind of throw a bow to Swords Arts Online, since I do seem to be attacking it a lot this episode, I will admit, the episode in, I think it's episode 14, actually maybe it's episode 16, I don't know, the end of the first major arc, basically. There's this scene where the game of Sword Arts Online ends, like the entire server crashes for reasons I won't spoil, and the 2 main characters, Asuna and Kirito, are basically just sitting in the sky, and the both of them are watching the fantasy world they've made their home for all these years slowly crumble away, and the two of them get really emotional because the two of them were married as part of the game mechanics, and they're both saying, "I'm so sorry, I wasn't able to fulfill half of the promises I made to you." It was just everything you needed for an emotional scene. It had just the right amount of emotional punch for the scene without going overboard, which is something the series generally has problems with, but overall, it's still really enjoyable. Also, since we've mentioned many times in the discussion, and Sven's going to refer to it a little bit later, we keep mentioning death for cheap drama, but there are two good examples of death scenes I wanted to throw in. One that admittedly I didn't think of when we were originally recording this was the death of Dinobot in Beast Wars, and where the death not only symbolised the end of a character arc, but well, if you ever want to find out, just type in Code of Hero into YouTube and you'll be able to see that scene. Basically, Dinobot goes up against every single villain of the series, and yeah, let's just say it is an incredibly brave but also an incredibly brutal fight that follows. So, and I could of course mention the death of, reversal spoilers, Roy from Xenoblade, because again, it's another glorious example of the death that had meaning and soul behind it. You could argue that there was shock value in the way they died, but the two of them, even when the situation looked impossible, they kept fighting until the last moment, when even though it was clear they were outmatched and outgunned, and even in the case of Xenoblade, where the protagonist will see the future, you know that it's not going to end well, but the two of them just keep fighting despite that, because they want to protect something important to them. That is a death that has emotion, not a guy who's just completely and utterly outmatched and killed off for no reason. And that's my view anyway, but now it's time to get some other people's opinions.
Well, I could go in depth on Mass Effect 3, because up until the ending, good God, when that game did tragedy, holy just for anyone who's played the game out there, Morden. That is the only character I will name.
Okay, fair enough. That's got me intrigued. I guess I'll have to wait until it comes out for the Wii U. One other example is something Roy Havenstone mentioned. He was the only one who mentioned the discussion. He does give a good explanation here, but I'm trying to avoid it, partially because of spoilers and partially because we've been going back and forth for ages at this point. The scene he gives is the climax to Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, in particular chapter 34.
I forget exactly which chapter that was, but with Deathly Hallows, I have to disagree, because that kind of took on Bleach / A Song of Ice and Fire syndrome, in that J.K. Rowling just started murdering everyone.
Yeah, I think it's more towards the climax in that, okay, just reverse this life and spoilers. The scene he's describing here is apparently and that's the bit he likes.
Oh yeah, now that I can understand. It's not the copious amounts of people just dropping off the face of the planet left, right, and center because it's the end of the series. What do we need these schmucks for anymore? Oh wait, people like them? My bad. But I can get behind that because that whole scene in the setup actually was kind of effective.
Oh, okay. I'm sensing that element of bitterness within you, Sven.
Yeah, you can tell why I learned to hate the deaths for cheap drama.
I think we're kind of going round in circles at this point, but yeah, I think overall the best, like we said before, the best way to make a decent emotional scene is to, well, A, make it so that we actually like the characters. That's always a good step.
Yes, in certain very specific cases, learn how to anti-hero, please.
And also, you really do need a lot of build-up, because frankly, it doesn't matter what justification you try to use for it, like shock or show what the stakes are. Cheap drama is cheap drama, and frankly, just killing off characters for that is just a shallow way of creating drama, really.
Yeah, especially whenever they're a character that you've developed over God only knows how long a period of time. The character is that important to the plot, and has been expanded upon, developed, etc. People like him, and then he doesn't even get a send-off. I'm looking at Bleach. And your one-panel battles.
Yeah, then, another example's just come to my head. Mortal Kombat 9, that bloody last chapter. Anyway,
I would not know that, thank God.
Yeah, I think we better backpedal on this quickly, but yeah, this is what happens when you get cheap drama. You already have a bunch of angry people on your doorstep.
Kind of like any time that I mention One Piece.
Speaking of which, have you been able to treat the burn injuries from that letter bomb?
Yeah, they're getting better.
I'm surprised you still work for me after that. Anyway. But yeah, that's the end of this discussion, and that's the end of this Monster Monkey broadcast. If you'd like to send us questions or give your own opinions on the things we've discussed, then feel free to leave a comment in this video, contact me via YouTube DMs, or head over to the blog at thejohnnymonkey.tumblr.com, Tumblr without me for some reason. But until next time, that was me, the Johnny Monkey.
And me, Sven the Crusader. Basically, just stop with the cheap deaths. We don't like them, they make us sad. And not in the good way!
That was Monkey Broadcast, a monthly review and discussion show hosted by the Jonin Monkey and Sven the Crusader. If you feel that you've been the subject of slander or that your copyright has been misused, please PM me and I'll try and get around to fixing it as soon as possible. We also welcome any comments, be it feedback or your own viewpoints on any of the things we've discussed. Until next month, have fun kids!